Hello.
Hello, everyone. Hi, David.
How are you doing, Betsy?
Good. How are you?
A question already. Is it Betsy or Sandy tonight?
Yeah.
It's Betsy.
I'm back.
Yeah, it was going to be Sandy earlier because Betsy was out of town, but Betsy's back. So
Yep.
Some of the earlier messages said Sandy would be here tonight. But
yeah. Glad to be here.
Betsy and David today. And we also have a question of where we're going tonight, but you're just going to have to wait to find out where we're going tonight.
Yep. Patience.
Yep. It's not time for that yet. Okay, so a little bit of business to get out of the way first. For those that haven't heard, we are doing our first ever global research party on Discord in 2 days on Wednesday. That will be at 7:30 Eastern time, I believe. I do so many adjustments to the time zones. I forget whether it's my time or Eastern time. Pretty sure it's 7:30 Eastern time, and it's going to go till about 10:30. And if you don't know what a global research party is, that's okay, because I don't really either, but we're going to figure it out. Some of the other projects do research parties, but the other projects are set up a little different than ours because we're not really doing research together. We're all doing different topics and different nations for that. So I'm not sure how much we're going to be doing research, although if you do have research questions, go ahead and bring them. It's going to be much more focused on the party and then the research end, I think, and just chatting, hanging out, asking questions. I'm going to have some trivia questions, and we'll have, just some informal things going on. I'll have a few research topics that we can discuss, but nothing formal. But if anybody does have questions, I know particularly some of our leaders that are, or not our leaders, but our coordinators that are fairly new. We've had a big influx on new coordinators just in the last couple of weeks. So if those individuals join us and have questions on how to set up the projects, if we got new people that may be interested in setting up a project but haven't had the courage to jump in yet, we can answer your questions. So pretty much anything. And even if it's off topic, that's fine too. It's just going to be, like I said, just an informal gathering of either global project members or people that are interested in learning about the global project. And again, that'll be on Discord, and there is a channel set up specifically for the research party. So if you go to Discord and look under general chat, there'll be a research party page, so you don't have to be part of the global project necessarily to participate. And that's open to non-WikiTreeers as well. If anybody from outside of WikiTree wants to pop in and learn about it, they're welcome to. If you got family members and so on. Let's see. So today, we're going to start, and I forgot to have Betsy set this up. So
yeah,
I guess I'm going to take over the screen then, because I want to show some pictures. We're going to do our guessing game.
All right.
We're going to let people figure out where we are going today. So let's. I don't do as well with the sharing screen, but let me pull it up and see what we can do. I think I need to, let's see. Give me just a moment, please.
And while you're doing that, let me just greet who we've got joining us tonight. We've got 12 people here.
Well, that's not bad.
Yeah, hey, Lisa. And Maggie. Meg sounds like Maggie's in New York. I'm from New York originally. Hey. And Anne Fiordalisi. Hey, Anne. And John, being a night owl, as usual. Hey, John. And Darren, it's midday in New Zealand. Mark Lemon, great to have you. And let's see, anyone else?
Yeah, Vicky just jumped in.
Vicky, hey Vicky. And maybe some people who are just not saying anything in the chat. But wonderful to have all of you with us. And hello and welcome to those of you who are watching after the fact on the replay. So.
Okay, so we're ready to give this a try. Let's see if this works.
Sure.
Okay, I'm going to see if the pictures pop up.
Do you want me to add you to the stage?
Yeah, go ahead and do that.
There we go.
Okay. Good. Okay, you can see it? All right, so let's see if we can figure out where we are. To me, it looks a little like San Diego, but I don't think that's where we are. I always like to start with kind of the touristy spots because those are often the most attractive. And I guess I'm going to have to just go in and out of this. This is a residential area. I'm not quite sure how they get there, except I see some stairs at the very bottom. So I don't know if the top people have to climb upstairs.
Are these, do you generally pick contemporary pictures, David, or?
Well, I have in the past, but let's go to our next picture here. Oh no, the next one's also contemporary. This one's just really pretty.
I know, gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Okay, but now we're going to go back in time. I haven't done vintage photos yet. Here's a family from probably around 1900 or thereabouts, a little before, a little after. So since I can't see the screen, do we have guesses yet?
Yeah, we have a family, couple of children, parents.
Okay, here, this is going to relate to one of our topics coming up. Here is a meal, a typical dish from this country. It is called for guests. And the way it's been described to me is it's basically feta cheese or cottage cheese with tomato sauce and chilies, along with some seasonings and spices.
Looks delicious.
Wouldn't be a combo I would have thought of, but it does actually sound like it might not be too bad. Tomato sauce on cottage cheese. Oops.
We're getting some we have some guesses.
Okay, well here's our capital city. So let me switch over here. I'm gonna look and see. No idea. Greece, Turkey. Yeah, we're not too far off.
Martinique,
Grenada. Yeah, see, some people went where I would have gone. And just to answer a real quick question here, so I don't forget, Maggie is asking if there's a Malta project. There is not a Malta project, but there will be next week. That is actually by perhaps by chance, or maybe you heard something, but the project that I'm working on this week, if you are interested in working on that project, drop me a private message and I'll let you know what's going on with it. So we got Armenia. Yeah, that's not too bad of a guess. Bulgaria, that's getting close. You're in the right area. This is the capital here.
Darren has guessed Albania. Darren has guessed Albania.
I was going to say, where's Darren's guess? Because he always gets it right. And Darren did get it right. It is Albania. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, Darren knows his geography.
Gold star for Darren.
Okay, so we are going to Albania today. And Albania is a really interesting country, as they all are. But I chose Albania. Albania was actually I think the second country I created for this project. It does not have a coordinator yet, so it's not active, but the project space and pages are up there. As I was reviewing the materials today, this is a really good country to learn from. There's a lot of clues that we can use. The premise question being, for all of our global projects, I have family from a country that I know nothing about. Where do I begin? And that's what we talk about with each of these. But Albania's got some real interesting characteristics that I think are going to be helpful and applicable to wherever you may be doing research. I'm going to guess that most of us don't have Albanian ancestry. There are in the United States, I think the population was only, I'm not going to give a number, but it's a very small population of Americans who are of Albanian descent. It was surprisingly small, that I'm not going to quote a number because I'll be wrong. But we may actually look it up, though, as we're doing today's presentation. But there's very few, proportionately very few Albanians in the United States. You will find more Albanians if you're in outside of Albania, but in countries nearby Albania. The Albanian people cover a region much bigger than the political Albanian territory. So many Albanians are not actually from Albania. They're from Macedonia and other nearby countries. So we'll talk about that as we go along. But today I'm going to, I always apologize to our longtime viewers because we review the same things over and over in the beginning, but that's because we always get new viewers. I was telling Betsy just before the show that we generally have somewhere between 300 and 350 viewers that tune in after the show. So there's a lot of people there that are not regulars and are just tuning in to learn about the project. So we want to talk about what the project's about and kind of go over our base pages. And then after that, today we're going to kind of follow up with the last episode. We're going to talk more about Wikipedia and how to use that in your research. And specifically, we're going to focus more this time on researching places rather than people. Last time there was a lot of talk about notables and how to connect notable profiles through Wikipedia. But today we're going to talk about countries and places and how to get information about them beyond what you see on the base encyclopedic page. So let's go through the Albania pages real quickly. And Betsy, I'd like to go backwards this time. I'd like to start with resources,
Sure.
then go to people, and then go to Albania, because we're going to talk more about the early stuff later. So we always have a resource page. Anybody is able to edit these pages. So even if you're not a member of the project, if you have information on how to do research in Albania and you want to come in, Betsy's circling the edit button there. You just click the edit button just like you do on any of the profile pages, and you can go in and make whatever additions you like. So if you have sources for Albania or any of our other countries, feel free to go in and put them in. I'm always surprised when I return to a page and I see 4 or 5 new sources that, it's nice to know that people are taking advantage of that. But please share. What we have on all of our research pages, we start with these basics. We start with Wikipedia, and we're going to talk about that particular page. It's called the Articles Related To page, which is different than your Albania homepage that you're going to find on Wikipedia. But we're going to talk about that in our next segment. So let's move on from there, and we'll talk about Family Search real quick. Family Search has a wiki of its own, and they have a page for every country of the world, and often they break those into regions and counties, administrative divisions, whatever that country, however it's divided. But that page is just like WikiTree or Wikipedia. It is a wiki, which means anybody can go on and add to it. Some of the countries have really great resources. Others are much more sparse. It just depends on who's been out there adding to it. Excuse me. Ancestry. Ancestry for Albania does not have any Albania specific records. What that means is not that there are no records that cover Albania. There are just no records that have Albania in the title. So they have, for example, they have links to Find a Grave. Find a Grave very well may have Albanian cemeteries in it, but it's not specifically an Albanian resource. So many countries that you wouldn't expect to be on Ancestry actually are. They are not indexed, so you don't get them on your basic searches. But if you do a search in the card catalog for Albania or whatever country you're looking for, you'll often find sources that you might not expect. Cindy's list does not have an Albania page, but it does have an Eastern European page that would include Albanian resources. So it's a place to look. World Gen Web. Now, this is something, I don't know if people are real familiar with US Gen Web and World Gen Web. It was started many years ago, was one of the earliest ancestral genealogy websites. And it got taken over by Ancestry several years ago and kind of fell into disrepair. The way they work is started with US Gen Web, and they had volunteers, and each volunteer they had it divided by state and then by county. So they had a page for every county in the United States, and each one was run by a volunteer. Then they spread out to World Gen Web, where they had a volunteer for every country of the world, or at least that was their goal. And then again, it kind of fell apart, and I thought it had been abandoned altogether. But I've heard just recently that Ancestry, I believe, has let go of it, and some private individuals have taken it back over, and it is now in the process of being rejuvenated. So we'll see where that goes. But much like Family Searches, Wiki, World Gen Web has a page for every country in the world. Most of them are still accessible, but Albania in this case not only is orphaned, but the web page is gone. So, but if you go to World Gen Web, you'll still see probably, I'll say 80% of the countries still at least have their old pages up, even if they're not actively being managed. And the same for US Gen Web. The US Library of Congress, they have research materials for every country of the world there. Some are more in depth than others, but just because it's a US library does not mean they don't have resources you can use. And they actually do have an Albanian research guide for how to do research in Albania. And then I always tell the last two, every single country I've come across so far has an online National Archives and an online National Library. Sometimes they're combined, but I have yet to find a country that does not have. I won't say that they're all online. Well, I won't say that they have records online. Some of them you'll have to actually contact. They'll have an address you can write to or a phone number you can call. But most of them actually have records online. I don't know how in depth the records go. I don't know how easy they are to locate, whether they're indexed or not. But most of them have something online. And the couple that I have contacted have been very friendly and very, very willing to work with me on getting information. So, don't be hesitant to do that. And then what we don't have here, somebody was reminding me earlier today, and this is something I don't think people think about a lot, but somewhere in the United States at some university, there's an Albanian department where they research Albania. And if you can find that and you can write to the professors or even to some of the grad students, they'll usually be very happy to help out with you.
Yeah, great. Yeah.
Yeah, they love to share. Academics love sharing their knowledge. So if you call and tell them you're interested in what they know, I did it not so much with the university, but I have family that was from from Bath, England, in the 1600s. And I knew nothing about what life was like in Bath, England. And I had some baptismal records, so I knew when they were born and I knew when they died, but I just knew nothing in between. And I wrote to a guy who wrote a book on the history of Bath, and he actually knew my family's history. He had records on my individual ancestors.
Wow.
Just because the town was at the time so small, and they
Yes.
had prominent roles. That one was an alderman and one was a minister. But again, this was 1600, and he had records that nobody else, that I wouldn't have found in any archives or library.
Yep.
Were just in his personal possession, and he was able to tell me more about their stories and their lives, beyond just what the baptismal and death records, marriage records, etc. So you never know. And that was just, again, I saw a book on Amazon. I think I bought it for $10. His name was on the back, so I wrote to him and and got what I needed. So don't be afraid to think outside the box. If you're if you're sticking with Ancestry and Family Search, and you're doing research in Albania or Afghanistan or Mozambique or wherever, there's a good chance you're not going to find what you're looking for. So kind of stretch your imagination, and there's an expert on everything somewhere, so you just need to find them.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go over to people real quick. We're not going to spend a lot of time here, but people, I always put the heads of government, the current heads of government, although I'm finding that they're changing rather rapidly. So if we don't get some coordinators for some of these countries, they may get out of date pretty quickly. We always do the we always do the nation's monarchy, either the current monarchy or whatever the last monarch was. So that'll be on every page. And then I just pick a handful of notable people. I sometimes will just Google famous Albanians and create a couple profiles for them. The question comes up a lot, though, why we put so much focus on notables. And there's a few reasons for that. My main reason is just because it's fun. I enjoy, researching these people. But that translates into it's what draws in new members. If we go to if we go out to the non-WikiTree community and ask people to come over, and we tell them, hey, we're working on Elvis's profile, or we're working on find out if you're related to Marilyn Monroe, that sparks interest. So that gets people in. And even on the country pages, if I say, people have seen some of the other projects that we post on G2G, come connect the Olympians. And we get a whole lot of people that do that. Some people have no interest in it, and that's fine. But we do get a lot of people that are drawn to the projects. And then the big reason, though, that we do it is because it gets more profiles onto WikiTree. And when we're talking about a country like Albania that doesn't have very many profiles, if we can go over to Wikipedia and find some notables who have a little bit of history, maybe their parents are listed, maybe they've got extended family that was in a similar field of notability, we can get a half dozen profiles up. That's a half dozen more opportunities for somebody of Albanian descent to connect to the tree. So I've been surprised, going all the way back to our 15 Nations tour, how many profiles we've been able to get up. When we did the India project with the notables, I think we wound up with something like 800 additional Indian profiles that we put up in a 3-week period. So that's why we do it. It's because it's a fun way to get additional profiles onto WikiTree. And again, if you're hosting a country project and you want to get people to drawn into it, into your country's project, Notables is a good way to do that. Show them some of the people that come from their country. People are often surprised at some of the names that get connected with these various countries. They say, oh, I didn't know he was from there. And they've got fun, have some fun times doing that. So anyway, now let's go over to the main Albania page. So
okay,
this is where we get our history and cultural references. And what I found interesting with Albania is that there were a lot of clues here. If you don't know, if you have no idea how you're going to start your family history research in a particular country, this is a good page to just give you some basic ideas. There's always links to each of the sections to go get more details. But if we just look down here, we start just with the locations, so you know where the country is. There's some countries people haven't heard of, and or maybe you've heard of but aren't sure where it is. So we tell you where it is. We tell you the administrative divisions, because very often that's where the public records are going to be. Not always, but just like in the United States, our records are at the county level. If you only know your relatives are from Albania, and you don't have any more specific information, you may not be able to find the records in Albania. So you're going to have to do some research to figure out, and we've talked about that in a previous episodes, how to find the hometown of your ancestors. So go back and check that out if you're not sure where to find that information. But knowing the administrative divisions is probably going to be important. But the history on this one, Albania's history. So Albania, as I said, Albanians have been around a long time, but the country of Albania is not so old. There was a kingdom of Albania that came into existence in the 12th century, but it was only in existence for about 88 years, and then the Ottomans conquered it. So Albania was part of the Ottoman Empire for about 450 years. That was a long time. The majority of its history was part of the Ottoman Empire. So if your ancestors go back to prior to the 19th or the 1900s, your records are going to be, I don't know where the records will be, but they very well may not be in Albania itself. They may be wherever the Ottoman Empire kept its records. That's an area of the world that I'm not real familiar with as far as the record keeping. But I know when we've done other countries, we've talked about, like when we did India, we found that the records were, a lot of the records were over in London, because it was a British protectorate, and they took the records with them. We've had countries, or African countries, that were overseen by France or Germany. So there's a good chance that those records are not going to be in Africa, but back in Europe somewhere. Not necessarily, but we don't know, and that's what we have to find out. So if you have Albanian roots that go back prior to 1900, you're going to need to figure out what happened to those records. Are they in Albania, or are they were they taken back to wherever the Ottoman Empire kept its records? And again, it's something I don't know, but that's something you'll need to find out. As we get into the 1900s, we have in 1925, Albania gained its independence from, in 1913 they became a principality, 1925 became a republic, and 1928 they became a kingdom. But we're still only talking about 15 years here, and then another 10 years, World War II broke out, and the Italians took over. So at that point, I'm assuming that the Italians kept the records. And again, you may very well find that the records aren't in Albania, but they're in Italy. Then the Germans took over after that. Germans were there for a year. It's a short year, but again, if your ancestors were born during that year, or married, or died, you may very well find their information in Germany rather than Italy, rather than Albania. And then after the Germans left, the Albanians had a short period of independence, but the Soviets were right behind them, and the Soviet Union came in. Now, Albania maintained its independence technically, but those of us that know about the history of the Cold War, they were basically satellite countries of the Soviet Union. And again, I don't know what that means for the records. Did the Soviet Union maintain records? Probably not, because they were an independent nation. But how those records were kept and what records were kept is a question you'd have to find out. So this again applies to every country you're going to be researching in. You need to find out who was in charge at the time, because that's who kept the records, and whether or not the records stayed in that country when the parent or the let's say colonizing country stepped out, or whether they took the records with them. It just depends, and you've got to do the research to figure that. The ethnicities. So 97% of Albania is Albanian, but there are also significant populations of Greeks, Macedonians, Montenegrins. I don't know who these people are, but they're Aromanians. I've not heard of that.
Me neither.
The Romani, the Egyptians, Bosnians, Bulgarians, Serbs. So you might have ancestors that came from Albania. You know, your parents tell you, your grandparents told you that their grandparents came from Albania, but they may have actually been Romani. They might have been Bosnian. They might have been Bulgarian. So just because they came from within the political boundaries of what was Albania doesn't mean that they were Albanian by culture or ethnicity. Mm-hmm. Same with the languages. Most of the country speaks Albanian, but they also speak a lot of Greek. They speak Bosnian, Bulgarian, a number of other country languages. So don't make assumptions because you've been told that your ancestors come from a certain place, that's going to be what their culture is. I have an adopted sister who knows for a fact that her entire family came from France. We've got the records, and we have them records of their, back in the French villages that they lived in, and yet she did her DNA test and it came back with no French DNA. It's all German DNA. Well, the villages are on the German-French border. Mm-hmm. The population is German, but it's within the French boundaries. So everything says French, and they consider themselves French, but genetically they were German. Uh-huh. And and my mother, very similarly, she had a hard time with this. She was Swedish. She was 50% Swedish. Her mother's parents came from Sweden. She knows she's Swedish, and she did her DNA, and it came back as about 25% Swedish and 25% Finnish. Mm-hmm. Well, I explained to her that the people of Sweden had to come from somewhere, and hers probably came over from Finland. But she didn't accept that. She just figures the DNA test is wrong. But again, it's not black and white. You've got to look beyond what the papers say. And then the religions. It was a Christian nation, but when the Ottomans came in, there was actually, I think it was even before that the Muslims came over and basically didn't wipe out the Christianity, but I think it was something like 75%, 25% is what you ended up with the Muslims being the larger population. And then once the Soviet Union came in, they passed a law they outlawed religion altogether. So for a long time, there was no religion. And even today, Albania is considered one of the least religious countries in the world. So, but knowing what religion your ancestors were can help you in determining where to find church records.
Absolutely.
If you know they belong to a Christian church or a specific faith of the or denomination of the Christian church, that's going to help you pinpoint where the local records are going to be kept. I don't know much about what records the Muslims keep, but it would be the same thing if they're keeping records in the Muslim community. Then that would be where you'd want to look. But you need to know, just because your ancestors are from a country that's predominantly one religion or another doesn't mean your ancestors were that religion. So trying to figure that out can make a big difference. And there's a good chance when they immigrated to their new country that they continued with religion from the old country. So, that would be your first clue. And then there isn't much here on Albanian naming conventions, but that's just something we try to put in there if there's anything unusual about the names. And when I say unusual, I'm talking the Western European way of naming is how we set up WikiTree's boxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's how we enter information. And it can be a bit of a challenge when your ancestors come from a place that, let's say, as Betsy's ancestors in the Chinese ancestry, you've got, last name first and first name last, and it doesn't necessarily fit in the boxes real easily. So you've got to figure out how you're gonna deal with that. The Arabic names, Muslim names, there's a number of different cultures that have to be, but Albanians typically have traditional Western European style names, so there isn't much written here. So there's our primer on WikiTree. Let's move to Wikipedia real quickly.
Okay.
And
should I go to resources and then to articles related to
you know what?
Albania?
You can do that. Yes, that would be a quick way to get over there. So this is not going to take us to the well, actually, let's see. Click on where it says the Republic of Albania in the top paragraph. Let's see if that takes us to our main page, because I want to show people how to get to this outline on other countries. Okay. So this is the main Albania page. And if you scroll down, not quite to the bottom, because there's a lot of footnotes, but just above the footnotes on this page.
Okay.
It's going to be quite a ways down, so you may want to.
Okay. Well, I'm trying to. I tell you what. Why don't I just go out for a second, because I don't want to make everybody dizzy.
Oh, okay.
So let's see. Especially if it's quite a ways down. You're absolutely correct. It is quite a ways down.
It's quite a ways down. I checked it earlier, but it's not all the way down. So you got this kind of. It's right above the footnotes is where we want to be.
All right.
Okay. So right here, there's a See Also section. That's a real important section on pretty much any article you're reading. The See Also is going to take you to additional materials on the topic. And if you click on Outline of Albania, they have an outline for every country of the world. Click on the outline of Albania, and let's scroll down. This is going to take you to all the other articles on Wikipedia that have to do with Albania. And as you scroll down, you're going to find that there's literally hundreds of them. There's, geography. Some of them are broad. They've got the article on Europe and South Europe. Some of them will be more specific. They've got natural and World Heritage sites.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So when you're doing research on your family, Betsy and I were talking about this earlier. You're not going to go on Wikipedia and find information on your family unless you've got some real famous family members. But and if you're looking for family in some countries, not too far back in some countries, maybe further back in others, but you're going to get to a point where there are no records about your individual family members. But you can still learn about their culture and what was going on in the world when they lived wherever they did. And this is a resource that you're going to want to use to find that information. If you have a specific question, I want to know what kind of, my ancestors were farmers in Albania, and I want to know what kind of crops they raised. This is where you're going to go. They'll have information on different regions in Albania. They'll have information on agriculture in Albania. You'll probably have to put a couple different resources together. But here's all the history. History is real important. My German ancestor came over in 1848, and for years I always wondered why he came over. He was fairly well-to-do. He was an artist and very educated. And I thought, why did he pack up his family and leave? Well, 1848, I finally did some research and figured out, was the year that the revolutions ended. The intellectuals were the ones that were leading the revolution. And when they lost the revolution, they packed up and fled for fear of being punished for their rebellious activities. So he was part of what was called the 48ers, and they were German intellectuals who fled Germany after the revolution. So, but I would never have known that had I not looked up the year, what was happening in Germany in 1848.
Right.
So if you find your ancestor came over in 1912 from, Albania or wherever, find out what was happening in Albania in 1912, and here's where you can go do that. So just all kinds of information here on.
It's fantastic. I can't wait to check out Taiwan's seal.
Yeah, go to Taiwan, whatever country you're doing. Now, right here you're exactly where I wanted you to be, where it says external links there. It says Wikimedia Atlas of Albania. So why don't you click on that and open up this? And we don't have to scroll through things, but you are going to find dozens and dozens of maps of Albania covering all kinds of subjects. Some are political maps, weather maps, agricultural maps. So if you want to find out again about what they were growing or what they grow in your ancestors' territory, come over here and look at a map, and there's a good chance you're going to find something.
Fantastic.
And this is one of those pages that's just going to go on and on. You keep thinking you're going to get me at the end, and it's.
Oh yeah, I'm looking at my cursor over here, and it's way up at the top.
Yeah, you're still way at the top there.
I love maps, though.
And one thing also to point out about this, most of the time, sometimes I have to say there's always exceptions, but most of these times these maps are free to use in whatever projects you're working on. So if you want to cut them and paste them over on WikiTree, or you're doing a family history project of your own, and whatever, kids have book reports to write, these maps are generally going to be in the public domain. This tells you where the different regions are. So if you know where your ancestor, what county they came from, you can look on these maps and see where that is.
History maps. Yeah, this is fantastic. All right.
So let's go back.
Okay.
See what else we get.
So do we want to look at any other external links?
So let's see. Okay. I don't know if this is the link. Click on it where it says other, and this is National Tourism Organization.
Yeah, I'm looking at here, a wiki voice. I didn't even know that there was such a thing.
That's no. Okay, that's not what I was looking for. Okay, over on the right, there's a box that says Albania, Wikipedia's sister projects.
Oh, yes. Okay.
There's travel information.
Oh, yeah. Like here, you want me to click on that?
Click on that. And this is a travel guide to modern day Albania. But it tells you about the weather. It tells you about the, various town histories, famous sites to see. It tells you all kinds of stuff that is really, it's great for traveling, but it's great for doing research of the area too. Like I said, they tell you what the weather's like at different times of the year. The weather hasn't changed that much since, 1800s, 1900s. It's going to be, if it snows, then it's probably still snows now. Major cities, major destinations.
For planning your research trip.
Always got some cool pictures. Here we go into the history of the country, the climate.
And David, in your experience, have you found that, say, this little this history summary is very condensed, but do you feel
very
like
condensed.
That is distinct from what you find on Wikipedia?
So this is all wiki, meaning that it's created by individuals who volunteer to come on. So it is not cut and paste from the other sections. It's written independently by other individuals.
Yep.
So it often contains, Wikipedia, they've done studies that show that Wikipedia is very accurate. So the information is not going to be contradictory, but there may be tidbits that are in this one that aren't in the other one.
Yeah.
Very much, if you go to the same article in another language, if I go to look up Albania on the Spanish Wikipedia site, it's going to be different than what's on the English Wikipedia site.
Oh, I
It's written by different people.
Right.
So this is the travel log, is separate from Wikipedia. It's a sister site.
Right.
So it is written by different people, generally. So yes, and it is very condensed. But when I'm starting out, that's what I want. I don't want to read a book about it. I want a paragraph.
Broad strokes.
And then figure out what I need to know and don't need to know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is great for that, which is also what you're going to find when you go to our global project pages. You're going to get a history, but it's not going to be the same as this paragraph or the other paragraphs. They're all written by individuals. Family searches, Wiki is going to have stuff that we don't have, that Wikipedia doesn't have. So they all sort of complement each other.
So we've got our reading cut out for us.
Yeah. And they will talk about, one of the things I found interesting on one of the countries I was reading about on the travelogue, they'll tell you about things to watch out for. They'll tell you, it says, women, what country was it? Was it Albania? No, it wasn't Albania. It was Tunisia I was reading about. And in Tunisia, women are free to dress in Western attire, but don't be shocked if you get a lot of catcalls and other offensive comments from men, because that's part of their culture as well, is that those things that are frowned upon in Western European countries and the United States may not be frowned upon in Tunisia. So they tell you things like that you wouldn't find in a normal, history thing, but it's about, little just tidbits, travel hints, because again, this is not created by a organization. This is created by people who visited the country, or maybe are tour guides or have experience, but are going to tell you, hey, this is the way it really is.
I mean, look at this, for reaching the capital by bus from each of these cities. It tells you the amount of time the trip will take and the cost in euros.
And how to get there from neighboring countries.
Yeah, and gives this, this secondary link. Wow, that's great.
So it's just, again, just like when somebody comes on to, I'm the secretary of my local genealogy group, and they asked if I could come in and talk about WikiTree. And I said, sure. And she said, okay, well, what if I gave you 15 minutes at the end of our meeting? I said, I can't talk about WikiTree in 15 minutes. There's like, where would I begin, but where would I end? It's like, how can I wrap it up in 15 minutes? That really explains it. And the same with Wikipedia. We think of it as just an encyclopedia, and you read your article and then you move on. But, you can find the same kind of thing if you're reading a historical article, if you're reading a biography on Wikipedia, if you're looking up elephants, they all have additional pages that just have tons and tons of information that you might not expect.
I think it's all a matter of being curious.
Be curious
and observant.
And that's what we tell people on WikiTree. click on the buttons. If you don't
Yeah.
know what something is, click on it. You can't hurt anything, click on it.
Right.
And
Explore.
same here, just start clicking on things. If you don't know what, if there's a label and it doesn't make sense to you, click on it and see what it says, or see what it does. Okay, so let's go back. I've got a couple more things. Another few minutes here.
Which page? Tell me where to go.
Back to the outline page.
Okay, there we go.
And let me just see if there was anything else there. I'll scroll back to where you were real quick. I just want to make sure that I didn't miss anything. So let me just tell you over here on that Albania what these other links are. So there's the media page is going to be pictures. We may click on that in a moment. News from Wiki News. So that's going to be news related to Albania. If you want to know what's going on over there right now. Quotations. That's interesting because those are quotations about Albania as well as by Albanians. And some of the quotations aren't so nice. But often during like World War II, some of the opposing sides' opinions of Albanians were not so flattering. But yeah, that's just a fun page to look at. And then the Albanian edition of Wikipedia. Wikipedia has a couple hundred different editions in different languages, and they are all, as I said, they're all independent. They are not just translations of the English page. They have different people that create the pages and write the pages. And if you want to learn about Albania, the Albanian Wikipedia page on Albania is probably a really good place to get accurate information.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of the pages are, a lot of the other languages are very sparse in their articles. They are kind of up and coming. Some take off and some don't. So you've got some that are basically abandoned pages. But it's a good place to find out. And I do this with the Notables project as well. If I want to learn about the Albanian, an Albanian notable, and I go to the Albanian version, I'm often going to get much more information than if I'm on the American version, because these people might be really important in Albania, but not seen as being as important in the English world.
Right.
So, so if you've got a first lady of Albania, again, in America, we may not see her as a real significant figure, but in Albania they might. So you're going to get a much more detailed, and you're going to get information on family often that you can't get elsewhere. So that's just a pointer if you're looking for information on people. Okay, so let me have you Google this next one, because I don't know how to find this through WikiTree.
All right.
Wikipedia has a wiki cookbook that I don't know if people are aware of. So just type in Wikipedia cookbook, and you can get there from Wikipedia, but I just don't remember where. Right there. Click on that.
Okay.
And well, now wait a minute. I was just on there before we started here. Go back and see if there's a second link, because
there's Wikimedia cookbooks.
Try that. Yes. Okay. Try that. Yeah. There we are. Okay.
Okay.
That's where mine took me directly there. Okay. So here you have a Wikimedia cookbook. And if you scroll down just a little bit, it's much more than a cookbook. It's got all kinds of information on food. So it's got, ingredients, techniques, meals, diets, special diets, cuisines, etc. But cuisines is where we want to look at here. So let's click on European. And let's click on Albanian right at the top.
Wow.
And let's scroll down a little bit to Fergus, which is on there.
Yes, what you showed us a picture of.
Yeah, if you scroll down a little bit more, there we are, recipes.
Uh-huh.
And there's a recipe for Fergus. There's actually two of them. One with peppers, which is the one that I showed you. Fergus of...
Yep.
A little too small for me to read. And there's your recipe. So if you
Wow.
would like to find recipes from your culture,
Yes.
there's a place to find it. And they have every country in the world listed.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this is so much to explore, David. Great stuff.
Yeah, I was talking to a family member who loves to cook, and she
Uh-huh.
was saying, she may just host a family gathering once a month and do a different country every month.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Fantastic.
And if you look to the left there, I've not looked through here, but you've got Wiki Junior, which is for kids.
Uh-huh.
You've got this is all under Wiki Books. And this is not a section that I've done a lot of exploring on yet. But you look there, you've got featured books, random book.
Well, just like we have random profile.
Yeah.
I think that makes total sense for Wikibooks to have random book.
Yeah. So just like I said, just start clicking away and see what's out there.
Right.
The from the main page, what I think most people are probably aware of, but if you find a fact in WikiTree in a main article and you are not comfortable using I'm sorry, I get my WikiTree and Wikipedia confused sometimes, but if you find a random fact on Wikipedia and you're not comfortable using Wikipedia as a resource, check the footnotes because it will often tell you where they got it, and the information, it may take you back to a newspaper, it may take you back to a document of some sort. Oftentimes there'll be links and they're online. So, definitely start with the footnotes and see what you can find there. And like I said, then just start. Always go to the outline. The outline is going to tell you all the things. It's going to have things that you never would have thought of. You're not going to Google it because you didn't know it existed to Google. So go and this applies, as I said, this even if you're not doing WikiTree research, if you're not doing country research, if you're researching a plant, a flower in your garden, and you want to know more about it, look for the outline and see what information it has out there. Any topic that you're doing research on, you're going to find. Amazingly, this stuff just isn't well publicized.
Yeah. And look, I'm looking at this recipe page, and even you could credit the chef. I mean, if you look closely enough, it was Hansen de who that's his recipe.
And sometimes, I don't know if you can connect him, but it may say, I don't know about recipes, but we'll just use this as an example. It may say chef so-and-so from such and such a restaurant.
Right.
And you can then contact the restaurant. I've seen that with other things where it'll say, professor at such and such a university. And okay, well, now I can Google him and reach out to him directly. So there's an option as well. And we talked early on that if you're doing research in a country that is what I always call genealogically obscure, not a lot of information on how to do research, somebody out there knows. So find the experts. Facebook's a good place for that as well. Type in Albania genealogy on Facebook and see, you'll see a number of
places. There's so many niche groups for genealogy on Facebook. It's wonderful.
And once you do all that, then come back to WikiTree and post your findings on WikiTree so that we can eventually be that go-to place. Okay, so we're right at the top of the hour now, so we'll wrap up. I do want to remind everybody, people were asking about the time again of the research party. The research party is Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern time.
Right.
And I don't know what that translates to as far as
UTC.
UTC. Yeah, I want to say it's probably midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning, which is unfortunate, but that's the time we were given.
Well, I can't come right at the start, but I will try and come a couple hours into it.
Okay, and again, those of you that were not here at the very beginning of tonight's show, we talked about it's just going to be really informal. We're just going to hang out, and people can ask questions. I'll have some trivia. We'll have some research topics. If people have research questions or want to get some assistance, we can do that. And if any of our coordinators are needing some ideas on how to get their country projects off the ground, we can talk about that as well. There's no agenda, so if you have something you want to bring to the table, join us, and you don't have to stay for the full 3 hours. You can pop in whenever you're available. There is a direct link on Discord. You go to general chat, and under general chat, it'll say research party, and that's where we'll be. If anybody has any questions or can't find it, just drop me an email message and I'll help you out.
Here, what I'll do, I'm going to drop the post, the G2G post into the chat for everybody.
Okay.
There we go.
There it is.
Yeah.
And it is listed on G2G. It's actually pinned on G2G. So if you go to G2G, right at the very top, you'll see the link. Okay.
All right.
Oh, thank you, Betsy, and thank you, everybody, for tuning in.
This was such an educational hour. Thank you, David.
I hope people got something out of it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you in another month with another surprise country.
All right, sounds good. Bye everyone.